Hello, everyone. Welcome to Justice Served Daily. I appreciate you being here tonight and your patience as we've had to um, postpone this broadcast of this specific case um, for a couple reasons. One reason which still is pending, but I'm going to go ahead and cover the basics of the case itself, and then we'll be able to come back for a second part of it, which is going to be after I receive a copy of the autopsy and police reports. And I had sent that for Freedom of Information Act. Um, and it's supposed to be within 7 days, but we have not received it. And I'll explain that as we get a little farther in. So this case that I'm going to be talking about stems from my original interest in true crime and why I got into true crime. So thought I could share a little bit with you all regarding that. Um, so my interest in true crime originated from, as some people's may, mine originated from my mom. And, she, when I was young, bought made sure I had the set of the Nancy Drew books and Hardy Boys books like she did and she was into. And then as I got through all of those, I would start reading her Agatha Christie books and such as well. And there were then a couple of things that happened that brought me to continue to follow true crime. And so there's a kind of a couple of things that impacted me at the time. So there's this murder case, which we're going to speak of, that happened in 1981. And obviously during that same time frame, the Adam Walsh case had happened in Hollywood, Florida in July of 1981, if I remember that correctly. And, that was a big case that, back in the day, there's no social media, there's no internet. Some departments didn't talk to each other and cooperate and have information like they did. So, but that was kind of a scary case that I remember because it was on the news outside of the area and them looking for a missing boy and stuff at that time. The other piece of that is that I ended up to realize that I had a somewhat connection to that case. And that other reason was because when I was younger, my parents were in a vehicle and I had an interaction from Henry Lee Lucas getting into our vehicle at the time. And I was very little in the back seat, and he entered the vehicle at the time. So we were traveling down to Florida, and I guess I could tell this whole case apart here because it's not that long or big a deal, but my father went in to get gas. My mother was in the car and I was in the back seat, and we had been sitting there, and then this man opens the door of the back seat of the car and gets in the car, and at the same time my father comes out and he's going to get back in the car, and then he sees this man in the vehicle. And so of course my father reacts swiftly and is like, hey, hey man, what are you doing in the car? And he's like, oh, I don't need to go that far. If you could just take me a little bit farther down. And this was in the 70s. So, at first, my dad was kind of like, oh, maybe we give it, and kind of looked over at my mother, and my mother just had an overall bad feeling and was like, no, he needs to get out of the car. And so she, really looked forcefully at my father, and so my father was like, okay, you need to get out of the car, man. And he's like, replied to him, oh, are you going to listen to a woman? You're going to let a woman to tell you what to do? And that just his interaction pissed off my dad at the time. And he's like, okay, you need to get out. And so later when he was arrested, my parents were freaked out because they knew this guy. And so later on in life, they decided to tell me, oh, by the way, a serial killer sat next to you. I was like, oh, well, that's great, Mom and Dad. Glad I survived that. And if people who don't know, I guess, Henry Lee Lucas was arrested at the time. And his connection, if you're asking from yourself, from the Adam Walsh case, is because his friend that he met and partner, his lover, was Otis O'Toole. And Otis O'Toole later confessed to murdering Adam Walsh. And Otis O'Toole was locked up first. And then Henry Lee Lucas ended up getting locked up, but in Texas. So they were both drifters. They would drift around, killing people and stuff like that. It was known that they would sometimes take vehicles and things. And so Otis O'Toole, he was a serial killer. He committed 6 murders that they did actually convict him for Otis O'Toole. And then Henry Lee Lucas, who was arrested, he had been convicted of 11 murders, convicted of. He had one that he actually got the death penalty from. And he confessed to hundreds of murders. And people believe he did that because he wanted, the time that they would give them and pay attention to him and have them cigarettes and all that kind of stuff. So that was the near close incident as far as with myself and this particular serial killer. So that's the quick one on that. The other case was when I was younger, and there was a missing girl on Halloween night, of all things, which was, a big deal holiday to myself. And her body was found just the block down from my house at the time. And her story and her body being found there and her history was just so connected. And this has remained a cold case. So I really wanted to cover this and share it because it is an Indiana cold case. It happened in Hammond, Indiana. And, she went missing on Halloween night, and her body was found the next morning. So I'd like to go into details and stuff about that. and just share with you the case, what information I have, and what's going on, and what responses and stuff that I've had from the Hammond Police Department, and trying to get some additional information. Because like I said, this is a case that's really bothered me, and it's just a case that touches my heart, and I want to find answers for her. So let me go into my information that I can share with you guys. And thank you for being here, by the way. And let me make sure you can see this. And okay. Oh, I know what I forgot to do. That would be helpful. There we go. That would be much better. Let me see if you can see this all right. Hopefully. You know, I'm gonna, because I need to show some maps. And that is way more important than my face. So there we go. That'll be bigger for you. All right. So this case started October 31st of 1981. And the girl was 16 years old. Her name is Debra Mae Fulton. She was 16 years old. She had just turned 16 a couple months prior. She was a little bit older than me at the time. Well, I guess a lot older technically, but it was Saturday, October 31st, 1981. So remember that was a Saturday night. And let's see. Okay. So the story about Debra is that she had she was a regular at a skating ring that was called the Roller Dome. So a roller dome roller rink, for anybody who's too young to know that, is that so it was just, regular skating. It was a big hangout back then. It had originally, the picture on the left was back when it was in the 50s. I'm not that dang old. Apologize for anybody who is. But and now it's actually it was a roller dome soccer thing that they now turned it into, is what they call it. But it was a skating rink over off of Gosselin Street. We'll look at the maps and stuff for me to show you the information as we get into it. But Debra was a regular at the Roller Dome. And it kind of had its revival in the 70s and late 70s, early 80s, that, that was kind of the place that you hung out. But it was open to all ages. You could be there, kids, adults, right? Everybody, any age. And she was a regular on Saturday evenings. If she had the money, then that's where she would be. So the night that she disappeared, her sister had shared, let me see what our next screen is. Yeah, her sister had shared that she was over at a friend's house that night. Her sister and her mother shared. Her mother's named Verna Hoosier. Her sister's named Teresa. And they said that she was going to go roller skating with friends. She was over at the friend's house. She came back home because she had an argument with that friend that night. And the plan was to go skating for Halloween night because they have basically like Halloween parties, hangouts and stuff there. And so she sat there and had come back, told her mom she had an argument with this friend. And after she had the argument with this friend, she said she was going to go ahead and go to the skating rink. Her mother asked, would you like me to drive you? And she was like, no, I'm not worried about, her driving me. She said, I need to cool off. So she went ahead and took off walking and to head towards the roller dome. And because Debra was so upset, her mother had told two family friends that were there about it. And so they said, you know what, we're going to go drive and look for her and, see if we can go ahead and take her and drive her the rest of the way. They went to go do that and came back and they were like, we don't see her. We didn't see her on the way. Now they didn't, try to get out and go find her or do anything else that way. So let me show you from here where we went. So there's the roller dome. This is the A.J. Spone Middle School. Now, I point this out because I'm going to show you areas near it because her body was found near it. And so that's where we're near. It was no longer a middle school and actually no longer even located where it was back then in 1981 compared to now. So this was an article that was also done in the local Northwest Indiana Times paper. And they republished this in 2009 because the mom had asked if they would reopen the case. Basically, she was asking and hoping that there were new technologies, but we'll see that. So I share that with you because the original date you see on this article was 2008. And now when you go back to articles, they'll show that it was updated, and it shows an update in 2016 with just like little information that they update. But that's not the same article, right, that they wrote in 2009. So I want to point that out to you. So this information is helpful. Again, remember, this case is close to me because basically she was found down, like a block and a half from where I lived at the time, because this, and I don't know if you can see my, I'm going to go right where the bridge is and put my thing right here. Can you see that? Mama Bear, can you tell me if you can see my mouse? Maybe? Or anybody? Do you see my mouse there? Maybe not. Not sure. Okay. I'll try to just point it out. Okay, good. All right. So if you see these matching orange, and I'll have closer look up, so nobody worry. This is to show you that Debra's distance from where her house is, okay, which is down here, the first orange, south orange bubble is Debra Fulton's house, okay? The next bubble, red star dot, the bubble is the bridge that's crossing over Calumet River, okay? So this street she's going to walk on is Calumet Avenue. There's a bridge right here, and that red dot or star is basically where they found her body, on the bank of that river. And on that corner, that Spone Middle School that I pointed out is right there. So it's kind of behind that school. And then when you go up farther to the very top bubble at the north, that is actually the roller dome rink. So when Debra would walk from her house, which I have a much better thing from where her home address is, over to the side, she just has to walk over, heading east, to get on to walk on Calumet Avenue, and Calumet Avenue is just straight shot up to the roller rink. So what I'm showing you here is that it is only 1.46 miles total for Debra to walk to the roller skating rink, which she did all the time. She was always walking there. Okay, so I did this one just to be a little bit larger. So again, to the where the bridge and everything is, that's a straight line. That is Calumet Avenue, a very straight line. This is closer to see the streets a little better. Her house is the bottom bubble, orange bubble, orange bottom. Oh my gosh, say that 3 times. Orange bottom bubble. There we go. And the walk over, if you can see from her street, she's walking over from Walter Avenue, her address, walks over to Calumet Avenue, goes straight up, and you can see where that bridge is going to be. And we're going to have a close-up. I'm going to show you the information about the bridge. Where the middle school is, where her body was, is the red, it's the red with the star in it. And then there's the skating rink. So that's just a little bit larger view. And so from this point, if you see this just beneath before the bridge, on the south side of the bridge, if you see my mouse, this street here, that little street to the east side, the very first long one that goes across, that has Calumet, the river, right? The Grand Calumet River there. I lived right there, right over there. So I'll go to the next one and then share here. So the reason, again, that this is a big deal is because on Halloween night, on October 31st of 1981, everybody was going to skating rink on that night for a Halloween party. And in particular, because I went there skating, my younger sister went there skating with me. There was, a lot of us that would go and hang out and stuff on that. But of course, it was Halloween night. So if you're younger, you're out trick-or-treating and stuff, during that time. And then the older kids are going out there and hanging out. And then they would have time. I don't remember if there was how late that night would go, in particular because of Halloween night. But it was a Saturday night. So sometimes, they could do lock-ins and things like that, like normal skating rinks. So that night, I had friends over, and, friends from Scouts, that kind of stuff, wearing costumes, going out trick-or-treating, whatever. And that would be, normally a Saturday we'd go hang out at that same exact skating rink I went roller skating. So we heard about the girl missing. It was spreading pretty quickly, through the town of just information about that there was a girl missing. And, people were trying to find her, whatever. And so, of course, that scares your parents and stuff like that too. So the next morning, and now I'm showing you this bridge here, okay? This bridge is the current view. That is not the bridge that was there in 1981. I'm going to show you what it looked like. But as you can tell, my arrows on the bridge where that coordinate are and where the red bubble is. So obviously this is the bridge. Now this over here, this thing that kind of looks like a school, that is like a Baptist church and school now, and high school now. So that was not the original school. But if you look at my arrow going down before, you could go right here. I'm going to right where the coordinates are the bridge. And right here along this bank where my arrow is at the 87 degrees, that is where her body was. So this is the Grand Calumet River. Again, this street going straight up is Calumet Avenue. That would be where she'd be walking. And if you look at this first street right here that's going south off of it, when coming off the bridge, on the south side of it, that would be the street I lived on, down that street. So that's why that stuff's scary to me. So the next morning, me and my mom left the house. I don't remember at the time what we were going to go do or whatever. I just remember it was in the afternoon. So we're leaving our house, going down our block, right? And we turn right onto the Calumet Avenue to go over that bridge. And when we go over the bridge, and I'll show you what the real bridge looked like, we get to just past where the bridge would end, because when we're looking over, we could see a bunch of police cars right here next to Spone Middle School where it was. And when we're crossing it, we can see police officers all standing there on the bank, which it's not super steep, but it's pretty steep down there. And they had just found her body. So when me and my mom were passing there, we saw that the police were all there and that her, they're looking down at her body. And that was very scary as a kid to even think of at the time. It just scared the heck out of me. It also caused that my parents did not want me to go to that junior high, because they changed, or the middle school, because they changed up at the time how long you could stay, how many grades they were teaching at the elementary school level, and then what was going over to the middle school. And you had to go over there earlier, and there was a lot of stuff about things going on there. And then after a body was found near there, my parents were like, heck no. So I got put in private school. So, I'll blame that. So again, this is just a map of the full area. And let me see. I hope this took it in here. Yeah, it did. So the like I said, the total miles, let me make sure I didn't pass that other one. The total miles of the full trip would have been 1.46 miles. So let me continue on what happened that particular night. So Debra doesn't get home for curfew. And so her mother goes to the skating rink and she is trying to find out and see if she's there. So when she goes up to the roller dome, she finds out from the staff and from her friends she's never arrived. She never made it to the roller dome. And she then got worried, was out trying to look for her and stuff like that. And the people started looking for her, trying to go around, find out where she could be. And her other daughter, after they were searching and searching, her other daughter basically goes out looking that next day because she still hasn't come home. They haven't heard anything. They're calling friends and stuff. And so a boy came out and he had shared that he was out on the bank that next morning. Make sure I'm going forward. And that's how her body was found. So at first, she was, they were not telling much at the very beginning of what happened to her. But when they did end up finding her, there was a boy who lived in that neighborhood, and he was, wandering along the banks, kind of playing along the water. Like I'll show you again, there's like just a grassy area. It's not really a park, but he would be playing along that and down near the water, which a lot of kids would do that. A lot of us would do that. And when he got to the bank, he saw her, and then they ended up calling the police. And so the sister, Teresa, was out looking for her when she saw the police at the bridge at that time. And she went over and stopped, and that's how she found and literally saw, they let them see it, her sister's body there on the bank. The boy was a young boy. I don't remember how old. I want to say he was maybe 12 at the oldest, maybe 14. So Teresa then gets a hold of her mom and tells her mom, which her name is Verna Hoosier, that she needs to come over to the Calumet Avenue Bridge. So her mom goes over there. She doesn't know why she's going over there, although she's worried, right? She goes over there, and again, she stands there with her other daughter, and they're looking at her body on the bank with partial of her body, with a little bit of her body in the water, not totally in the water. She's completely dressed. And I can't imagine how shocking that would be to actually see your child in the crime scene. So we're going to go look through a little bit of this. So this is the headline that was updated February 4th of 2016. Again, remember the crime happened in 1981. The mom asked them to reopen the case. September 7th of 2009 was the last article when this happened. So did I go forward or backward? Nope, I'm going backward. Sorry. Okay, that's what I wanted. So the Calumet Avenue current bridge we talked about. So I'm going to go to show you what kind of bridge was here. This was a historical bridge that you'll see. It was called the Iron Bridge. That's one photo. There's a reason to show you these photos too. If you take a good look at this, I'll tell you why we're going to look at them very good. So there's a picture there. And we'll look at the next photo, which I can draw a little bit more of your attention on the next photo. So this bridge, you saw that it crossed the Calumet River and Little Calumet, right? It gets smaller and then bigger. And it used to lift up. It would lift up and could lift up, boats and stuff like that at the time. And in 1981, this bridge was not active anymore. It was not moving. Excuse me. But what I want to call your attention to is you see these giant metal crossings and then the middle bars in between that. Okay. When you walk on this bridge, and I hope you can make it from this, and I've got another one, you don't walk on the inside of that bridge. The sidewalks are on the outside of that bridge. Can you guys tell that from the photo? So if you're walking along this, you're walking along the outside. You are not walking along the inside, which means if a car is coming at all, the car would have to hit that bridge and hit those giant metal posts and the middle posts that are there to even get to you on the sidewalk. And as you can tell, there's a railing along the sidewalk closest to us. So, make sure I'm going to the right one. Okay. Here's another photo that I will show you. Sorry, I'm making sure I'm going the right direction. Now, this other photo is the kids' track running with the bridge is behind them. So you can see the giant bridge, and you see that sidewalk right here where these guys are running, they just came from the direction of that bridge. So this sidewalk keeps going all the way to that side of the bridge. So now this side of the bridge that we're on, down on the right side of the bank, is where her body was found. So the railing and this bridge go farther, even past crossing the bridge. It's even farther. It like picks up, a little bit before it, and then you get on it, and then you cross over that bridge. So that way, anybody who's walking on Calumet Avenue does not have to worry about going in the road, going on the side of the road to walk, or walking along those sidewalks. They would walk along an actual sidewalk. So this sidewalk they're running, the direction they're running is the direction she would have walked to go to that roller skating ring on Calumet Avenue, because we're looking south. But she never made it to the roller skating rink. She was found murdered on this side, but down on the bank. Nope, I always want to go the wrong way. So I'm going to play, let's see here. I want to make sure I get the right one. Hold on one second. And let's see. I want to make sure you guys can hear this audio. So I'm going to play. I like this version of being able to do this. So just let me know if there's any trouble hearing this at all. And I will start it.
Hammond, she walked off into the night Halloween 1981 and never returned home. But she has never left her mother's thoughts. I don't want to give up. I just can't give up. Verna Hoosier said of her efforts to find who killed her 16-year-old daughter, Debra Mae Fulton. Hoosier recently asked police to reopen the case in the hope new technology will provide the crucial clue that has just a quick word from our sponsor.
Sorry about that.
You know, a lot of the things that make Hancock Health a great health network are also the things that make us a great place to work. Like our independence. Decisions get made right in Hancock County, not some distant boardroom.
Sorry, gotta let the commercial go through. There's a commercial in everything anymore. Almost there.
Escaped other detectives who have worked the case over more than 27 years. Police have never told me a whole lot, but I suppose there wasn't much to tell since nobody would say they knew anything, Hoosier said. Hammond Police Chief Brian Miller said last week his department is looking for new leads in the case. We might have someone out there now who didn't want to come forward for whatever reason. We ask anyone who does have information to call 219-852-2806, Miller said. Debra's fully clothed body was found the next day beneath the Calumet Avenue Bridge on a bank of the Grand Calumet River, just north of Michigan Avenue. Police at the time said the blood on her face and the position of body appeared to rule out an accident. The coroner's office listed the cause of her death as a fractured skull and classified it as a homicide. She was very small, Hoosier said of the 5-foot, 1-inch, 100-pound victim. She was just a sweet, loving daughter. She went to First Baptist Church, not regularly, but she was baptized. I did have a problem with her leaving home and not coming back and going places where I didn't want her to go and with people I didn't want her to go with when she was younger. There were times when she wouldn't come home and I would go looking for her. We talked and got everything straightened out. I let her date and she didn't run away anymore, Hoosier said. Debra's older sister, Teresa Schweiss, said Debra was very opinionated, headstrong. She and I butted heads, but basically a good girl. She was taking classes at Sawyer Business College in photography. Her mother said Debra was a regular at the Roller Dome Rink, 730 Gosselin Street, which closed its doors last year but was enjoying a revival in the late 1970s and early 1980s. She went roller skating every Saturday night she could, if she had the money, Hoosier said. Schweiss said the night she disappeared, she and a friend were fighting and she took off for the Roller Dome. My mother offered her a ride, but she was so upset she just wanted to walk. Schweiss said 2 family acquaintances went out to catch up to her but later returned saying they never found her. Hoosier said the Roller Dome said she never got there. We were all out looking. My other daughter called me to come over to the bridge. She wouldn't tell me why. I went over to the bridge, and my daughter was down there, partially in the water. A boy who lived in the neighborhood was wandering along the creek bank and saw her and called police. Police said at the time they couldn't account for the victim's whereabouts between 6 p.m. and 8 p.m. Halloween night. Schweiss said the police told me one time we might solve that case as if the killer came after my other sister or me. Otherwise, it would not be solved. Hoosier said we still go out looking in the hope people will say something to us.
Next article.
So what I want to point out about that is that some of this information was used to, in my opinion, to not really put a lot of emphasis on her. So her mother had trouble with her early on when she was younger about going out, not coming home and stuff like that. But she said everything was fine because she had started to let her date. And at the time, I will share that there was an older, I hate to say it that way. Well, it is. It's a man in his 20s who was said to have been seeing her. She met him at that Sawyer Business College that she was going to, right? But what's interesting is when Debra left her home, she left her home at 5 p.m. So they know with only 1.46 miles that it wouldn't take her that long to walk to the skating rink. And if you recall, and what they stated in the article, and what we know is that the police are saying they don't know where she is between 6 and 8 p.m. So we have to remember. So she's over at a friend's house. She's over at a friend's. They're going to go to the skating rink together. They have an argument that makes Debra angry, that she goes back home. She changes clothes. She gets dressed, right? She's ready to go. And then she's heading out. She won't take a ride from her mom. She wants to blow off steam because that's how angry she is. So she goes and she takes off. And then that we have within, and again, she leaves at 5. So we have less than at 5 o'clock that she's, missing. Let me go back to PowerPoint. Okay. So the articles and stuff that we go over, I'm going to let you know the reason there's so little known, and you probably heard it in the article just read, is because they have not told the mother anything. It has been 40 years plus that she has not been told anything, nothing at all. I know that because I had reached out to her mother. It's been a while now. It's probably been, maybe under a year, but maybe a year. Her mom is in her 80s. She has no idea what happened to her daughter. The information you're reading is all she had, is it. She doesn't know any. And when I reached out to her at the time, she wasn't sure in how to help her in the case. But she also was like, I don't know anything to be able to help you with her case. So I want to read this particular thing that I pulled out from here. So Debra's fully clothed body was found the next day beneath the Calumet Avenue Bridge on the bank of the Grand Calumet River, just north of Michigan Avenue, which is one major street down, but that's farther out from, she's closer than Michigan Avenue is. Police at the time said that now this was new stuff. The only thing we heard about was that she had a head injury and that there was blood on her face. And then later there was a little bit more detail. So police at the time said the blood on her face and the position of her body appeared to rule out an accident, right? This is how it was first kind of shared. So she's got some blood on her face. That's all they say. And the position of her body ruled out an accident, right? So then, as you can tell, the article was updated. Well, the coroner's office listed the cause of her death as a fractured skull and classified it as a homicide. I'm going to show you the death certificate for you to see this. Okay. This is going over the same stuff. And by the way, I don't know if you, let me find this one that her sister said, because I thought it was disturbing, that I want to emphasize on. And as you can see, it shows the boy who wandered the neighborhood was the one who found the body. That's the next day, November 1st. So here's what the sister, her sister Teresa, says that the police told her. The police told me one time, the police told me one time we might solve the case is if, the one time we might solve the case is if, meaning the killer, came after my other sister or me. Otherwise, would not be solved. Could you imagine? And that's her older sister. Teresa's her older sister. Oh my goodness. Let me make sure I'm sharing this. Whoops. Nope, that's not what I wanted. Sorry. I have to make sure that I go back to sharing the screen. Sorry, guys. Just the comment to her sister is just so upsetting. There we go. All right. So now we're going to look at exactly where Debra's house is. So you can see the big red balloon. I guess it's a balloon more than a bubble. At 5644 Walter Avenue. So we're going to have closer maps, but this is her neighborhood here. So she's only going to have to go east to the right over to the big yellow line because that is Calumet Avenue, right? And then when she goes and walks that direction to Calumet Avenue, she's going to go north, take a left, go north that way to start heading towards the bridge. So you see that's not far, right? Sorry, I keep wanting to go the different direction. So what I shared was at 1.4 miles was the total distance between Debra's house and the roller skating rink, right? Well, what I'm showing you right now, which is a similar slide but different here, this slide is showing you the distance from if Debra walked out of her house at 5 o'clock. She goes, like I said, walks east, right? She's walking east to head to Calumet Avenue. So I show that she walked over to Calumet Avenue. And then she walked up over the bridge. And I put it where her body was found. That distance is 4,618 feet. It's basically like 0.8 of a mile. It's not even a mile. So she leaves at 5 o'clock. She takes off, a 16-year-old by herself, done it many times. It's Halloween night, right? So there's going to be lots of people out and about. There's going to be people taking their kids trick-or-treating. There's going to be people, you know, driving around with their kids, doing all kinds of stuff. And so she's walking on a major road. Calumet Avenue is a majorly busy road. This is not a little side street. Now, when you get over to where her body is found, It is kind of deep down on that bank, and it is dark next to that middle school. There's like it's not really a kind of like a parking area, I would say, almost like a parking area, but it's big space kind of before you, like right there at the door of the middle school on that side. So this bridge, I want to point out, used to also be called by the kids the Smokers Bridge. So anybody who wanted to, wanted to go out there and smoke, who were teenagers, they would go hang along that side of that bridge. They would be on that sidewalk of the bridge, or they would go right there on that side, on the left side of Calumet Avenue towards where Spone Middle School would have been, which is on the same side of what currently is City Baptist High School, but it's farther back. But that would have been where she crossed. So people know she's heading to the skating ring. Other people are going. It's Halloween night. Her friend who's nearby, that she was at her house, have an argument. She goes ahead and walks by herself instead of getting a ride. And she only gets that far. Right. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the death certificate. So if you look to the death certificate, it is telling you when the police got there and that she had passed. So remember, she went missing October 31st. They found her on November 1st, the next day. When the police got there and determined that she was dead, it was 4 p.m. So if you look on this, it says skull fracture right under the signature. There are 2 lines down. Well, yeah, the next line down. Due to blunt force was her death, right? And then it shows that it was a homicide, that the crime scene is on the riverbank, and that it says that she was beaten. So she was beaten. Now, they said she had a fractured skull. She had a wound, right? There's a wound in her skull itself, which is interesting to me because, so her face was, they described her face as being bloody. So she's in a fight right over there near the middle school. And obviously then she's either put there or falls down the bank. Only a partial of hers in the water. Now, they don't say what part of hers in the water. She's fully clothed, so it wasn't any type of, sexual assault or, anything like that she had undergone. So the reason that I show the bridge and everything to you was because also 3 years ago, I don't do Reddit. I don't follow Reddit. I've heard the comments think, Reddit is where the truth goes to die, right? I've heard all that stuff. But I ended up finding this, and it was so frustrating for me because, these people weren't from the area. They don't know the area and stuff like that. But, so they're telling the story of Debra Fulton here, and about her, how small she was, that she was on foot, going to her hangout spot, that she didn't arrive by curfew, that the staff and few friends said that she never made it to the roller rink at all that night. Again, I'll just emphasize, I don't know if that's in here or not. Remember, she left at 5 and they don't know where she is between 6 and 8, which to me means that fight happened right away. Because remember, two friends of the family took off to go give her a ride, to catch up with her and give her a ride. They don't see her at all. She never gets to the skating rink. Police say they don't know where she was between 6 and 8 at all. I would argue they don't know where she is even after 8 o'clock, right? Because 6 and 8 could have been the roller skate rating, the rink's hours at the time. But, you know, she was not there. And for her to only be, you know, feet from home instead of, you know, not even a mile. So they talked about not being at the roller ring. Police were called to search for her. The following morning, police are called after a young boy discovers a body on the bank of Grand Calumet River. Police arrived to find a fully clothed body beneath there, and at the time said that the blood on her face and position of her body appeared to rule out an accident. The coroner's office listed the cause in her death. Ever. No one. That's still till now. 40 years. 41 years. So this person, this is what part I had to participate in of that I was just, no, this isn't right. My biggest question, aside from who did it, is how sure are the police it wasn't a hit and run? It would have been getting dark around that time, and Debra was on foot. The bridge she was found under is on the route, and she would have taken to get to that roller rink. She could have been struck with a side mirror from a truck and fell from the bridge. Okay. Let me go backwards to the bridge. So here's the bridge. We are looking at the north side of the bridge, and we're sitting on the west side of it. She could have not been hit by a truck in between not only these massive iron steel bar here, but also the middle supporting bars. If you can see that in between that V, there's also middle supporting bars. You have to hit that bridge through it to get to the person walking on the sidewalk. She couldn't have been hit on the sidewalk and flown off the bridge and been down that far on the bank. There's just no way. That's not a possibility. Because she just couldn't have. There's no way. And this goes so far over to that you're still covering regular, see how the sidewalk is still going, and it continues going on until it's merged with the road. You're not, even with the regular sidewalk along the street, that you're not even exposed anywhere, right? She would have had to I'm looking at the right side of the bridge here, on the right side that's facing us. She would have had to been hit here through the bridge and flung all the way over, farther down and then all the way down the towards the embankment. So, in my humble opinion, I don't believe that. If you look at the sidewalk that these runners are even walking on, right? And some of these kids are actually out farther on the grass because they're running and they don't have enough room. But if you see the sidewalk itself, there is plenty of room on this sidewalk here that, you know, even if she walks up the bridge, she's not going to get hit by a vehicle. And if you see that car coming over down in the road coming towards us on the left-hand side, you see how far that bar goes down, and the continues with the sidewalk itself. So, and she's not had trouble with it before. She's 16 years old. She's walked it before. And I just don't find that as a possibility, in my opinion. So I did use the Freedom of Information Act request to request for the Hammond Police. And what the request is, it's what's normally released in a case of what they will release, basically. And they share the autopsy report, and they will share the actual police notes and documents and stuff. So what I found out is I requested this months ago. Normally, a Freedom of Information Act request is supposed to be fulfilled within 7 days. That hasn't happened yet. And they have been delaying and delaying and delaying. And I went to keep messaging them. And I found out from the person who keeps the records and stuff there that they had to go to the microfilm of this case and go make copies of the documents from the microfilm. And after the records keeper was done doing that, then it was given to the attorney to see what could, or possibly basically what can't be released. Now, I'm hoping to find out more from it. You know, there was never suspects released from it. And what we do know is before this happened, there was an argument with a friend. I don't know if it was multiple friends or whatever. I will say that any notes about that would be interesting because, you know, you have the girl walking from her home to the skating ring, and other teenagers her age are going to be doing the same, right? And people know that she's walking to the skating ring. And now she's walking to the skating ring by herself. So did she meet up or run into other teenagers? I don't know. Get into a fight or continue a fight she had with other people earlier. I'm curious if in the crime scene, if they found her roller skates, because at that time back then, it was cool as heck to have your own pair of roller skates, right? I remember getting mine for Christmas when I was a kid. And that was a big deal because if you go there a lot, you didn't want to sit there and be renting roller skates all the time and wear those ugly brown skates, right? You wanted to have your cool white pair of skates, you know, all that kind of stuff back then. So did she go there, and could the fracture on her head, this is so speculation because I don't know anything more yet, could it be from a roller skate? Could have somebody hit her with her own roller skate she was taking? Or could it have been from their roller skate? And if there was roller skates there, were they tested? Is there anything that possibly could be tested? If she was fighting, I would think maybe her fingernails could have shown something. Now, this is back in 81. You don't know. And I think that the, other point is that, they never told the mom anything. And I think that at the time, it was kind of pushed aside for a moment, because she had when she was younger, sometimes that she had stayed with friends or whatever overnight, didn't tell her mom, and she got in trouble. But her mom said she wasn't having trouble with her like that anymore, and that, she was trying to find out what was going on. I don't know. Now, they were sharing that she got to date now because she was 16. Her mom let her start dating, and that the guy she was dating was definitely older than her, because I remember seeing somewhere that he was in his 20s. So that causes me concern as well. But that would also mean he would have known she was on her way, had to have drive up over close to over the middle school, pull into the middle school, have her over to the side, commit this crime that close to her house. And then either she was pushed down there, or either she fell down there after getting hit in the head. I don't know. I find it a shame that they have not told her much of anything, and she doesn't know much more in the case itself. It's just a shame to me. And I wanted to be able to wait to go on this case, talk about this case in full, after I could see what I could see with the Freedom of Information Act, kind of see what stands out, because this 16-year-old girl, whether she ran away from home or not, deserves justice after 41 years. It doesn't matter if it was your 16-year-old daughter. No matter what that 16-year-old daughter did, she was murdered by someone. That is what the autopsy or the death certificate says. It was homicide. She was beaten. Her face was bloody. Her skull was cracked. And they really deserve answers. So I do have, again, this is her photo, and information that if anybody does have information, that they should contact the Hammond Police Department Detective Bureau, 219-852-2906. I will share with you that this will be part 1, because I will be doing a part 2, so that we can I can update you on what I find out, and more information on this case itself, because it deserves It deserves it. And this case means a lot. My mom is gone. And yesterday was an emotional day because I have been keeping her dog since she passed. And yesterday I had to, we had to put down her dog, Pepito. And that was very difficult to do. So this case means kind of a continuation of what, you know, me and my mom saw when she was found. And to be this much later and it's not solved, or, you know, is there something we can do? I don't know. I want this show to be action to find out what we can. And I may be ambitious in my thoughts because, you know, I know that sometimes like billboard companies will donate billboards, and see if maybe a billboard can be put in the area, because I feel like somebody in that area knows something. If it was a fight amongst teenagers, then people in the school would have talked. And I think that would be important. I know that they updated the article in 2016. I'm concerned about how is stuff on microfilm. If the mom asked for, you know, the case to be reopened or re-looked at in 2009 and then 2016. Earthkeeper, you know what? I'm not sure yet. I want to see what we find out by getting and reviewing the information we receive from the Hammond Police Department, for we can know kind of where to go from there. And, you know, check how much was done, and to even check if there was any type of forensics possibility of anything being there. And is that something we have to look into for, you know, there's cold cases groups. Unfortunately, there's not a major cold case group working in Indiana per se. And so, you know, but if there's a possibility that there's some DNA in there, I mean, the sad thing is a lot of time you see these cases and they go and will finally do some DNA and maybe genealogy, forensics. And then the person who committed the crime is already gone 40 years later. So I think that the clue is trying to learn more about maybe what the argument was. Was she arguing with more than one person? Because I think when you say a 16-year-old girl is murdered and you have to go to microfilm to share info about the case, is sad and frustrating, I'm sure. And I'd love for the mom to hear about or learn at least more about the case and see that people are trying to do that for her. I have reached out to somebody who I believe is her older sister, Teresa, and I'm hoping that I may hear something back. But like I shared, this case is one of them that got me into true crime, in addition to my mom, who loved it herself. And, you know, I feel like there's a sign from her that this was kind of the way to go, because the date that the mother asked for the case to be reopened, that the article posted, was on her birthday. And I just feel like that's kind of a sign from her of this is the right thing to do, and let's check if we can get answers for people. So But I will definitely, Earthkeeper, there will be a second part of this case when I get that freedom of information out I can share it with everybody. So yeah, Kelt, that's right. I mean, I think since we know the business school she was going to at the time and supposedly met this man there, we could figure out who that is. If not, I mean, the officers may have already spoken to him and, you know, an alibi and stuff may be there. And obviously, I'm not we're not crime solvers, but I want to try to help the family know more information, the other people who are asking for the case to be relooked at, ask if there's any DNA possibilities there to see if that could happen, and ask if there is any way maybe the local Northwest Indiana Times can put an updated article again. And also, you know, if there can be billboards or something, or a billboard in that community in Hammond to ask if questions come forward. Because a lot of times people don't speak for a while, and then, you know, after 40 years, they may. So I appreciate you all being here and listening to my story of how I got into true crime and this particular case, because it deserves attention too. And I will keep looking for and have other cases that I will be digging into that are unsolved cases. I always also cover missing, cold cases, anything like that. Anything that also has to deal with children is very important to me also. So is there any other questions at all? I've been trying to look at the chat over here. I can do that when I'm actually not reading in my PowerPoint. Thank you, Earthkeeper. I appreciate that. Yeah, the mom not knowing anything. It's sad. I mean, that was her response. They haven't told her anything that she could share. I will also remind everybody that, and I forgot to bring that name over here. We did have our first drawing because we did reach over our 200 subscribers. If you have not subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Hit that subscribe button, because I will be doing another draw when we reach 500. And it's for a 6-month subscription to Discovery Plus, which it has the ID channel on it. And all you have to do is be subscribed to win it. So, and hit that like button. And thank you for joining me. Thank you to my mods. Thank you, Kelt. Thank you, Mama Bear. Thank you all for being here. And let's just make sure that justice is served daily. Good night, everybody.